Hello, I'm Albert Ake, and this is Paul Hester. Today we're going to be talking about the Sopa, ACTA, and PIPA bills. First off, Paul, do you know what any of those are?
Slightly. I know that they are basically ways for the government to limit what goes on and can be put on the internet, I believe.
Sopa and PIPA are both basically copyright laws, and the copyright gives the power to the copyright holders. So let's just say in this case, the movie industry or Hollywood. Let's say company X produces movie Y. What happens is if movie Y gets linked to a site like what used to be Mega Video, what would happen is that Mega Video could be shut down, sued, and there are people arrested, like what did happen afterwards. And that's what could happen anyway. Any user who posts a comment, posts a link to a site that hosts copyrighted material, what these bills will do is make it so that the website itself is responsible for that person, which is not in the law right now. The website is not responsible for the users. But knowing this, how do you feel about that, Paul?
I feel like the website shouldn't be responsible for its users. For example, like if someone goes on Facebook and they post something that angers people or is against something or is insulting or slanderous towards a certain famous or political figure, like Facebook isn't responsible for that. And I don't think, websites should be responsible for that. It's also like there was a McDonald's case, the coffee case, like McDonald's isn't responsible, like shouldn't be responsible for how their customers react with food. Like McDonald's shouldn't, McDonald's shouldn't and doesn't have anything in place to like limit, how much you go and eat, and if you eat too much you get fat. Like they don't have anything in place of that, and so it's not McDonald's responsibility to, I don't know how to say this.
I understand what you're saying. What you're trying to say is that the website itself is not responsible for what the user does on the site. And if the website finds out about the user by doing this, they're probably breaking the terms of services, usually. Then the website usually blocks or gets rid of that person. But some websites like Wikipedia and Facebook, who have millions upon millions of users, it takes a long time to go through all those profiles. And so you can't make them, or at least what Paul says, you can't make them responsible, in his opinion, for what they do. Now, on January 18th of this year, 2012, Wikipedia, the English version of their website, went dark for roughly 24 hours. They still made it easily accessible by doing a few things, but they wanted people to see the message. Google blacked out their logo, and if you clicked it, it went to an infographic and you could sign a petition. Both Wikipedia and Google had petitions for this. Reddit, same thing. They went dark all day. They were one of the big proponents about people who didn't want it. Many other sites did it. The Minecraft website did it. Multiple people participated in the blackout. Or at least Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg posted a status about his opposition to the bills. While you can't actually shut down Facebook for a day, they would lose so much money. But Paul, did you sign any of these petitions, or did you know about that day?
I knew about it because at the time I was playing Minecraft, and I did see the Minecraft thing about it. I heard people talk about the Wikipedia thing. I didn't sign a petition.
Now, some of these petitions were as basic as they get, where all they need is your name and your zip code. Is it that you didn't want to get out personal information, or do you just...
No, if I was going to sign something, I'd want to do a little bit more research into it, and I just didn't have time to do the research.
But so if you know what you know now, just about Sopa and PIPA, would you have signed the petition back then?
Yeah, because I don't know, I see the internet as basically the free communication of information, and once you try to hinder that, whether it be information as a necessity or information just for entertainment, like that's going to hinder the progress that we're making as a civilization. Like, yeah, I know there's copyrighted stuff out there, but and you shouldn't be posting copyrighted stuff. You shouldn't be illegally downloading
unless you have
or
the
doing
permission
that,
of the
unless
person.
you have permission. But I don't want to be advocating, piracy, internet piracy. But like if there's an interesting article around, like if we, if these bills did pass, I feel like, news would get distorted. It would be much harder to access the internet and access certain sites, and I feel like just information and as a whole right now, like we can send a message all the way around the world in the blink of an eye, and I think that's very, very cool that we can do that.
What you just said actually is basically what Wikipedia's stance on the whole thing is, that they always said that since people make up Wikipedia, and even though they go through and check all the content, if someone links something it's barely copyrighted to, let's say they're talking about something, they link it to show you what it is. Now, the copyrighted person could take that the wrong way, like, oh, they're doing this wrong. Regardless if they're breaking copyright material or not, if the person behind it thinks they are, then that infringes on Wikipedia, which makes it they basically have to go through and check every link that's posted. And the thing about the links in Wikipedia is as they probably know, links appear blue, usually underlined, and it's hard to tell whether a link will take you to a later section of the page, another Wikipedia page, or off the website. So the United States web page itself has over 1,000 different links on it, if not more. So you can imagine how tough that would be for some people to do. And that was their big thing, is that you're limiting our ability to convey information. Now let's move on to ACTA. ACTA is the newest bill. And it's reported that within 10 weeks this bill could be signed. Actually, it's not actually a bill, it's a treaty. It's a multinational treaty. And ACTA is basically Sopa and PIPA merged together times 10. Basically what this does is I'm going to use the chicken example, which is the popular example for explaining this. Let's say I go to a class and I learn how to make fried chicken. It's pretty good fried chicken. I meet my friend Paul here and I tell him, hey, check out this fried chicken recipe. I think you'll like it. I teach him the recipe. What will happen is the person who taught the class or came up with the recipe could come find me. Found out I gave the recipe to Paul because I paid for the class, he didn't. I could go to jail for up to 5 years and pay thousands of dollars in fines for telling Paul about a recipe. It's basically, that's what ACTA can do. ACTA can make it illegal for someone to share information that they've paid for or gotten through a membership to someone who doesn't have it, along with copyright and all sorts of other bad things. And the enforcements for this, you can actually, in some states and countries, the crime for violating ACTA is more severe than almost beating someone to death. You will get more jail time for disobeying ACTA. And what it does, basically in a nutshell, is that anyone who violates copyrighted material or shares information like the recipe, even though it's technically copyrighted and I paid for it, no one cares about sharing a recipe or something like that. Even if it's not copyrighted, if they found out I shared something that I learned in class, even if I didn't pay for it, they could still do the same thing. Well, what happens is that people get absurd fines, possible jail time, and then also it could affect Paul. You never know. It's up to the person who came up with this. Also, we'll use Wikipedia again. Let's say a user on Wikipedia is talking about something and then linked to an external page. Let's say this external page breaks copyright material. What ACTA will allow the person of that copyright material to do is go to Wikipedia and say, you either remove this content and publicly apologize, or your website gets shut down. They physically have the power to do that, to just get rid of Wikipedia completely. They can do that to any website. They can do it to Google, Wikipedia, Facebook. It gives them that power. Paul, knowing that, what are your thoughts?
2012 is real. We're all gonna die. All right. No. Back to the free information thing that I said, like that. I can see both sides of it, but however, being in the age that we are, I feel that we need to be able to convey information through the internet and not have to worry about getting jail time for committing murder. Like, that's worse than committing murder. That doesn't seem quite right.
Almost beating to death, there's a huge difference.
Okay, almost beating to death,
but the point is still the same. In fact, this would, to interrupt you real quick, just to get another point of reference to go off of, this will destroy YouTube. And I'll tell you why. Yeah. You probably all watch or have playlists of lyric videos because you just want to click music and go study. All those users will have to pay fines. YouTube would have to pay fines. Those videos would be taken down. The copywriters can pay fines, all sorts of stuff. And it just doesn't stop there. If you guys,
Well,
if anyone out there who,
Bivo.com.
yeah, if anyone out there who likes video games, plays like, watches video game strategy guys, anything like that, anyone who teaches you how to play guitars in certain ways, all can be taken down.
Any tab, because I play a lot of guitar, and like there's websites dedicated to writing tabs, and tabs is basically you can go, let's say you hear a song on the radio or a song on the CD and you want to go and learn how to play that song guitar, you can go and look up, and it's basically like very simple, like it shows you like the string number and then the which string it is at which fret, and it'll eventually teach you how to play the song, and all of that would be shut down because they don't have copyrights to those songs to teach you how to play that song, if I'm hearing this correctly, right? But that would completely destroy, because even, let's say, Wikipedia gets shut down, or Google gets shut down, that would hinder the internet. I mean, without Google, what are we going to use? We're going to go to Bing, and how long till Bing gets shut down?
The thing about Google is Google's probably, they have a better shot at anyone of staying open when they have more money, so they can pay any fines. But at the same time, you know, all people have to do is request to be in Google search engine, and they will pop up when you're searching, regardless of how far down the list. But when you're searching in the first page and you find stuff like Wikipedia, the New York Times, those websites are paying for that front page search. Everyone else down the list, they just said when they created their website or when they created a blog, put me in the Google search so that you could possibly be found. Do you know how hard it is to monitor that? Do you know how many new websites enter Google daily? It's unprecedented. You can't fault, well, at least people believe, you can't fault Google for doing that. Now,
I mean, technically you could make them responsible, but then Google would spend its multi-billion dollars it makes having roomfuls of computer analysis going through link after link after link. That's all they would do daily, and that would just waste of money.
So Paul, knowing about the ACTA, now, in case you guys just didn't know, just for a little bit of background, Sopa and PIPA, like I said, were protests, and that protest was very successful. I believe there was about 100 or so senators who were voting on the bill. Almost all of them switched sides and didn't support the bill any longer, and it was pretty much dead. The day after that, the people, as I mentioned earlier, the people who are responsible for Mega Upload, the biggest file sharing site in the world, was shut down in Australia after U.S. officials called Australia and said, arrest this dude. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mega Upload is actually sponsored by many musicians who endorse it and publicly endorse it. So this was a huge shock to us. ACTA has been trying to be written for years. I think it's going on 4 years now, and it's coming up for voting soon. Within the next 10 weeks. If you want to learn more, just go Google it, find out about it. There's multiple websites dedicated to it. It's not something you're going to hear about in the mainstream media. You probably won't find it on the New York Times, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. You'd really have to look for it because it's not getting coverage. It's an international treaty, and it's not domestic. So if you want to find out more about it, I would very much encourage you to go look it up. I will be posting a YouTube video to an organization that made an excellent demonstration about what ACTA means. It's also where I got the chicken example. You'll see it when you watch it. Paul, do you have any last closing comments?
The internet is basically the new form of information, of how we, transfer information. And if that is hindered or stopped in any way, the way we keep on adapting and moving on as a civilization will be severely hindered. So I strongly suggest you go and you do everything in your power to stop ACTA.
So. Okay. Stay tuned for more videos.